Good morning. My name is Sakshi Rani, and today I'm going to demonstrate on validation service. So, in this validation service, we are going to understand the two or three more important aspects. First, one is API versioning. What is API versioning? Versioning. Second one is HMAC security. How to provide security to the payment system. And third one is we will see the coding on HMAC security, how we will create the HMAC signature, and how this will going to provide a secure payment system. So first of all, for creating the validation service, we already planned to create a three microservices, and for these three microservices, we are providing the validation service for the first microservice, and a second microservice is for the processing service, and a third microservice is for the PayPal provider service. For combining, we are saying as payment system, and that would be interlink or communicate with the PayPal provider system. PayPal PayPal system. And the first one is e-commerce, where our client will communicate with the e-commerce site, and that all those payment or all those orders which was created, which will be created by the client, that will be communicate with our validation service. Is validation service is our main point where all the e-commerce system directly communicate with the validation service. Uh, if our system consists another e-commerce system, so that e-commerce system also communicate with the validation service. And if we have to create another e-commerce system, that e-commerce system is also communicate with the validation service. So validation service having the main endpoint where as many as we want e-commerce system, that all e-commerce system is communicate with the one validation service. And validation service is the open service. So every every e-commerce system which is outsider of payment system, it's having the risk of security. And for that, we are going to understand what is HMAC security and why we are providing security to the payment system. We will understand what is the need of the security. But before that, we have to understand how to create a validation service. For that, I am providing the other integration branch from the main PayPal system, where from the main PayPal provider service, and I already imported a validation service integration branch in my Eclipse, and I already push all those code and commit all those codes in the Bitbucket. So no need to see all those things. You can already do all those things your own by yourself. So here in this validation service, first most important rule is that we have to check whether this validation service which we integrate from the main branch, it's run it's running or not. For that, run I'm going to run this validation service PayPal provider service application. I I'm clicking on the run as and then click on the Java application. It is not Java application. Firstly, we have to run as a Maven because it's a Maven project. So we have to. It's a best practice to run as Maven project rather than directly clicking on the Java application. So I'll go to the run as and we will see. We will click on the Maven build. I'm clicking on the Maven build here. My goal is to clean and run the Springboot application. It is going to be so much easy. We have to. This is really necessary so that we can know that my PayPal provider service is really working fine. If it's not working fine, we will resolve the issue, and afterwards, after resolving the issue, we can easily find what's the issue, and we can easily resolve all those problems. As we are seeing that it's already. It's already saying it's failed to start because it's showing it's already is running, so we have to stop the system. I am going to restart my Eclipse ID. I'm going to restart my Eclipse ID so that we will not facing any issue. As our problem is that the port is already occupied by some other services. But if we want to run our service to that port, we have to uh, cancel whatever service which was running at 8081 port number. And that's why I closed my Eclipse ID and I restart my Eclipse. It will going to restart soon as possible. Actually, it will take time, but we have to take the patient. We have to be much more patient. As I'm seeing that my service, my validation service is now free from other service which was running on the 8081. It's now free. So now I'm free to run this application and then see whether my application is running on 8081 port number successfully or not. For that, I go to the run as I'm even clean. Firstly, we have to clean the service. It will take time, but we have to be patient enough. As it's already cleaned, then I click on the run as and click on the even build. And now I put my goal here, clean spring boot run. Hopefully it will run successfully. As uh, as I can see that this service is started on the port number 8081. That means our application is successfully run on the Tompkins server. Now I write some little program on addition controller for just for the checking purpose whether it's work on the postman or not. If it successfully gives the result, then I can assure that my integration branch is successfully integrate and I can easily import on the Eclipse and I can easily build the validation service program, microservice program. For that, I have to check in a verify API. This is my I have to duplicate this one. Duplicate its validation service. Add. validation service add method, and it's running on the 8081 port number. And also I'm going to pass the num1 equal to 30. It's for the checking purpose, nothing else. And num2 equal to 50. Just checking whether this program is working or not. Then we will continue to write our program, validation program. And as I'm seeing here that it's already our controller adds so our controller add our controller add service is successfully add our two numbers, so we can now we are ready to write our validation own service logic, which will be communicate with the PayPal system and also the e-commerce system. So for that, I'm going to create another controller for our controller, and I'm going to name that controller as payment controller. As giving the I am giving the name of this controller as a payment controller. It depends on the documentation, and it depends on the developer. As in a PayPal documentation, we have to write the order API request as order API request because it was mentioned on the PayPal documentation. But as a validation service is our program, so we are free to give any API name, and so for that, that's why I'm giving this API as a payment API name. So this class is a payment controller. Firstly, check that we have to code little and check little so that this will ease this will not create a problem afterwards while doing the testing. And it's a best practice that we have to code a little and check a little, and that will not create a problem in the future. I'm going to I'm going to I'm going to apply this practice as well. So here I'm creating the payment controller and adding the annotation as a REST controller so that it will make this controller as um, bean this make this controller IOC and bean as a bean in IOC controller, and request mapping, and here I am naming my API as a V1 payment. We will know we in a few minutes we will know why I'm giving the V1 and what is the reason behind of giving the V1. But just wait for the 5 to 7 minutes to enter to this topic why V1 and not V2 and something else. But but for now V1 is a version. How which version we are using? So it's that thing is called API version. We will discuss in up to 5 minutes. And now I'm going to write a code public string um, request payment payment request, and here we are going to pass for firstly we have to system payment created and return payment created. It's just for dummy purpose. Whether this is working or not, that's why I am adding this for demo purpose, nothing else. So we will check whether it's working or not. V1. So here validation service, we are going to add a new validation service as a blank collection. It's for the demo purpose. So for just copy this thing. It will be making my work easier. Just duplicate this one. Duplicate copy version copy order demo and it's working on the V1 payment and you check whether it's working or not. Okay, it's not working because of let's see, it's showing the V1 payment. Okay, localhost 80 and not found. Why is not- Let's giving the another name so it will be easier for me as well. V2 payment and here I must have to write. It's a let's just skip this part. We will discuss it later. But firstly, we have to check whether it's working or not. Okay, I have to add this one as a post mapping because this this should be going to the header side. That's why it is not recognizing. Now it will recognize this time. Hmm. Okay, now it's good. Now I add as a V1. It's a version we will discuss afterwards. Now it's working fine as our method is correct and now we are ready to create the payment request. Now we are ready to create and we are ready to create all the payment requests which data is passing from e-commerce to the payment PayPal provider and which data is passing to the PayPal provider and what the request structure is needed uh, for e-com that will be passed to the validation service and then that will be goes to the PayPal system. For that, I already knew that there are few request structure which we have to write. In a PayPal provider service, we are having this request structure and this request structure. So as we have to categorize which thing is provided by e-commerce and which thing is provided by the PayPal provider, PayPal system. As transaction reference is generated by the payment system, so it's generated by us, but all the currency code, amount, value, brand name, local and return URL and cancel URL must be provided by the e-commerce system. And this request structure we have to code this request structure in e-commerce in a validation service as that will be provided by the e-commerce system. So firstly, we have to check how all those things is provided, how all those things is provided by the e-commerce. Firstly, we have to check that, this thing is provided by e-commerce, and in the validation service, we are having this request structure. Uh, it consists of two request structure. First one is user service, and second one is the payment service. In user, all those things is should be validated in our validation service. So this thing is provided by the user, and now we are going to break down the validation request in a two parameter. First one is user service and second one is a payment service. In a payment service, we are having the currency, amount, brand name, local, return URL, and everything. And all those things must be required in our validation service structure. So, um, instead of writing whole code, how to convert JSON to the Java code, we will take the help from the ChatGPT web, and that will make our work easier. So I'm going to write how to convert JSON to structure structure to the Java object as payment service. Payment is our main class, and this is this is our JSON structure. I'm going to copy paste this structure, and I'm doing this thing because I have to save our time. I have to save our time. We can use our own brain, and we can use our own time to write whole thing. But for saving time, I'm using the ChatGPT. Paste. Now see it will give the correct answer or not. Let's see. And this is just for the practice. This is just for the getting the input easier. But we have to use our own brain to check whether this given thing is working or not. So for that, we already getting the validation request user and payment. As I already mentioned that we are categorized the validation request as two fields as a user and payment. So and ChatGPT is also giving the same thing. In user, we are having this uh, five five important fields we are needed to validate, which we are needed to goes to the R database, and also in a payment, all those things are provided by the e-commerce. So this thing is also needed to validation service. Now I'm going to create our own Pojo class where the payment and user all fields are mentioned. For that I'm going to create our own package that is com.cpt payments dot Pojo. This is our own package where I'm going to where I'm going to keep all the classes which is really necessary for the in fact all the data which is necessary for validation, for creating the signature and everything. So firstly I'm creating the user class, and here this is the data, this is the field. And for automatic generation, I'm setter getter and constructor. I'm using the constructor as a Lambok API, which is used for reducing the boilerplate code and making our program easily readable. And that's why I'm using the Lambok API. Lambok API and first is added data and second one is no args constructor and all args constructor. This is the user class. Now I have to create the payment class also as well. Copy paste. Okay, save payment. This is a payment field. Okay, payment. Now I'm create a combined class which taking the field and payment and user as a field. Class is copy paste payment service as a class. So this is the class for the user and payment as a payment service. And now as it is also as it is also mentioned as I'm creating a project class for all those fields, it's better to classify whole all the package as per the needs. Now our basic need is that firstly I'm going to explain what is API version because as I already mentioned that we will going to discuss about API versioning and security also. So now it's time for mention why what is API version and why it is very needful while we are coding, while we are developing our code. So here here in API versioning is basically a, a method which is which is named this API version is named as one of the type of activity, one of the type of activity which which is like practicing of managing changes in to an API and ensuring that these changes are made without disturbing the clients. And uh, while using the API versioning, we are providing the a separate space for the client so that they can easily switch to the different version or upgraded version whenever they have the time. But as we also provide the constraint like for the new customer or for the client, new client must be integrated with our latest version, latest update. But we also inform to the existing client that uh, we have the newest update and we you have to upgrade to the newest update and we have you have to upgrade to the newest update and we also provide the deadline so that the clients so that the client so that the client as soon as possible they can switch to the newest update and they will not they will not face any security issue while working on the oldest version update, and that is called the API version. If in this suppose in this as in this payment controller, we are I am mentioning the V1 version, as V1 is the first version for the payment, and suppose we had a three e-commerce site which is communicate or which is integrating with our validation service, and these all three e-commerce website is working or using as V1 API, but as e-commerce too want to add some extra feature, and we as a developer never want to disturb other clients by updating in the middle of the month or middle of the year. So we it's best practice to create a separate version controller. Suppose for the payment controller too, I'm going to mention as a V2 payment that will be the update for the e-commerce tool. And if e-commerce one, e-commerce three also want to use the same update, they can also switch to the latest version update. And that is really important while we are working with the different clients. So API versioning is a very useful method to create different version of APIs and still not disturbing any clients. And that is really very important in our coding environment and in our surrounding and developer life. So this is the one thing which is API versioning. Now we are going to write a code that how all those payment service user will uh, communicate with a payment controller, and all this site is going to link, and by postman we are going to check whether it's working or not.